Welcome. It's indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Richey. Good to be with you. We have a lot on the agenda today. Breaking down news of the day with me, none other than Yasmin Aliyah Khan. Always fascinating to have her analysis. Top story of the day. Some call him the most influential Black Republican in MAGA, which doesn't mean much. He's having trouble navigating. He was booed trying to defend, well, another billionaire and more. Here it is.
Have you read the book Caste by Isabel Wilkerson?
Have you read the book of my life?
Caste.
Stop. Don't educate me about my life, sir. Don't do that. Don't, sir. Hold on.
What?
Please, hear me on this. I like how everybody's shouting at me, a black guy on stage with a microphone and saying, have you read this book, read this book, read this book, read this book? Don't marginalize my life and what I've done. Don't do that. Don't marginalize Don't do that. Don't marginalize theirs. Do you know how many black men in America today?
Yeah, he's having trouble navigating. A defense for Elon Musk. It's a town hall. A town hall is meant for open conversation, concern, maybe remedy, maybe even a remedy or two from those who know how to solve problems. But it got worse. Things escalated with a pro-Palestinian attendant. Here it is.
The Palestinians have voted for Hamas. They have not done anything to remove Hamas. So if you want to have a shouting match of me, let's have a shouting match of facts. The truth is that Hamas held elections one time, and they never held elections again because they would prefer to keep the Palestinian people under their boots. Like I said, if you want to have a disagreement, let's have a disagreement. But when you're going to stand and yell and disrespect everybody in this room because you think you're being heard, and let's be clear, you're not. Let's be very clear. You're not. What you're doing is yelling now, and you're being disrespectful. You are being disrespectful. And I will respect you, and I will honor the fact that you are here trying to get answers, but if you're going to hold this thing up and be disrespectful, then that's time for you to be removed.
He not like us. He ain't ready. He then had to tell the crowd to not boo him before pivoting to Joe Biden. Here it is.
Don't boo. Are you ready? You ready for the other half of it? The previous president, President Biden. So you do not want to hear the full story. You don't want to hear the full story. Allow me to educate and bring you the full story. And when you're ready, I'm going to tell you, because I don't want you to yell and not hear the full story. Because you're not listening. You're yelling.
I mean, dear brother, I understand your point. I get it. All of these lies work for white Republicans. They should work just the same for you. The pivots, the ducking, dodging, deflecting, and denying, telling people not to boo you. As a matter of fact, the things that you said, they're celebrated at a Trump rally, but Trump has to say them. Okay, put them up full mask. The event was about Doge, as I call it, Dodge. That's what the town hall focus was. Let me read a quote. Do you approve of Elon and Doge invading our social security files? That is a remarkable and relevant question for this town hall. We're talking about Doge. This is posed by an audience member to vigorous applause from the audience in the Fort Myers suburb of Estero. The Florida congressman, who is also campaigning to be the state's next governor to succeed Ron DeSantis, defended Doge and its billionaire leader. Quote, Elon Musk and Doge have been authorized by the President of the United States. Donald says before being quieted by widespread boos, asked as a member of the House Oversight Committee, quote, what oversights are you imposing on Elon Musk and Doge? Donalds was evasive, offering a sanitized version of the fledgling agency's mission. Quote, what Doge is doing is they are going through every agency and they are examining any contracts except for Elon's or any lack of efficiencies in spending federal dollars, end quote. Donalds explained to a mix of mostly boos, a couple of cheers, along with the sustained chant, no, 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 no. That got on his nerves. He then asked, quote, now this is my question for the audience. Hold on, sir. Wait. Let's stop the presses. Come on now. Come on, brother. Now you've been in this game long enough to understand that's not how a town hall works, okay? You want to ask them questions. You ran for office because you said you had answers, sir. You're seeking another office because you're telling them you have the answers, sir. You are the guy who can figure it out. You want to be a representative and leader of a group of folk that require advocacy. But you need them to answer your questions. So he then asks, quote, now this is my question to the audience. Do you want to yell or do you want to hear? Once again, dear brother, not how it works. Donalds tried in vain to reclaim the room, begging the audience not to boo before telling them, quote, you don't want to hear the full story because you're not listening. Put up his picture again. Yeah, sir, at this moment, it has to at least be sinking in. I mean, you did all of that tap dancing. I want to keep his picture up because he damn near almost out tap danced every other Black Republican who kissed the ring of Trump. The only person that has him is Tim Scott. Nobody else. Tim Scott is number one. But out of all of you guys who said to Black communities, because remember, they were the ones in barbershops, they were the ones telling Black folk to vote for Donald Trump. Can you tell me what Black people received for your advocacy of Trump? I can tell you what they have lost. I was at an event last night. Pastor Jamal Bryant, Tamika Mallory, Senator Nina Turner, Dr. Ben Chavis, Dr. David Johns, many others, because we thoughtfully talked about what we have lost. All right. Obviously, this is not going to be an easy campaign for him running for governor. The reason why people boo you, sir, is because of the energy you have put out there to them, your lack of leadership, your lack of independence, and your lack of fortitude. You do not have a backbone. You are no leader. What are you doing? All right. Yes, my thoughts here.
Yeah, Byron Donalds is a joke, and it feels good to see all these people fighting back against him, not just because I think it's good when people fight, but because it's reassuring to see that people don't actually support the things that these Congress people are doing and saying on their behalf as their representatives. I don't know if these are the same people who voted for these Republicans in the first place, but either way, it is the public's job to hold their elected officials accountable, not just during election time, not just at the ballot box, but at events like these town halls. And him trying to tell people not to boo was funny to me. It felt like he was trying to have an Obama moment, but the difference between Donald and Obama is that Obama's audience wasn't booing Obama. They were booing the things that Obama was criticizing. They were booing in agreement with Obama. Donald's audience was very much booing Donald's. They were criticizing Donald's. These town halls, they're a good benchmark of, what's happening across the country. And they are encouraging because you have to believe that every little bit of backlash and response and just protest is making a difference in the big picture as far as where our country is headed and how far we're willing to let things go. It all helps to change the narrative or rather, it helps to prevent the narrative that DOJ and the Trump administration are trying to impose on the public from taking hold. And we know what the Republicans are going to say. They're already saying these things, that these are paid protesters, that these are actually Democrats. And so, of course, they're going to criticize these Republicans. First of all, there is no proof or evidence one way or the other that these people are paid protesters. And secondly, Democrats have a right to criticize the Republicans who represent them. The fact that they're Democrats does not discount or discredit their criticism. And this is how democracy is supposed to work. And just the fact that Republicans and the Trump administration and DOJ are trying to silence this opposition, that should be a huge red flag for everyone who says that they support democracy.
That's right. Well said. I remember when Republicans would say, "Oh, we just care about protecting the ballot for American voters," and then it became, "Well, we don't really care about the Democratic ones. We just care about the Republican ones." All right, we'll bring you updates on his campaign as they develop. The government decided to dock somebody. Kilmar Abrego Garcia's wife. Put her full mask. We do have elected officials speaking out about this. So his wife has been forced to hide in a safe house after the government published her address. This is the wife of deported migrant, Mr. Garcia, has revealed she was moved into a safe house after government officials posted her address on social media. Democratic representative, Instagram. Here it is.
I'm not here to really advocate for one person. That needs to happen in court. No evidence has actually ever been presented.
You went to El Salvador. Now you're saying it's not about him. Of course it's about him.
Due process.
You went to El Salvador for a political stunt, and now you're saying it's not about him.
It is about this case. Laura, it is about the rule of law. This is a bipartisan issue. It transcends partisan politics. That's why a conservative-leaning Supreme Court has said that Donald Trump must facilitate the return of this individual. This is very dangerous. We are turning into an authoritarian country, and there are Americans from all across the political spectrum who are deeply concerned about this. Again, my office has not received more calls about any other issue since I have been a congresswoman than this one, tariffs being the second one, and the lack of real logical economic policy. But the issue of due process. No, these are the economy, when we had a town hall the other night. This is the issue, and the economy.
Blah, 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 due process, Constitution. That's the only line these individuals can take when they stand opposite of common sense. They can no longer talk about their great love for the Constitution. They can no longer talk about their great adherence to law or even the United States Supreme Court or judicial remedy. Jennifer Vasquez Surratt spoke with the Washington Post, Maria Louisa Paul, after her husband's ongoing case and the depiction by the Trump administration. Surratt said her address was shared publicly when the Department of Homeland Security, isn't that ironic, Homeland Security? The Department of Homeland Security posted an order of protection she sought and ultimately abandoned against her husband. The reason they did this is even disturbing. It's disturbing they did it, right? It's also disturbing they did it intentionally. It was not an accident. And then they did it intentionally in order to muddy up the public relations or public opinion of this ordeal because they know they don't have evidence for court. Courts weigh evidence. Now, the order did not have her address redacted. So fearing for her own safety and the safety of her children, she has 3 of them. She has moved to a safe house as government officials openly mocked her husband and paint him as a criminal. Quote, I don't feel safe when the government posts my address. That's quite understandable. None of us would. The house where my family lives for everyone to see, especially when this case has gone viral. And by the way, it's viral because they intended it to go viral. Especially when this case has gone viral and people have all sorts of opinions, she said. So this is definitely a bit terrifying. I'm scared for my kids. And she's talking as any parent would. Mr. Garcia was deported to a mega prison meant for gang members in El Salvador. A move the administration initially admitted was done in error. At least that's what they're saying publicly. White House press secretary contended last week that Garcia's imprisonment was no mistake. Uh-oh. Government officials have insisted that Garcia is an MS-13 gang member. Yes, MS-13 gang member, despite his denial, despite having no prior gang-related convictions whatsoever, and despite the fact MS-13 don't claim him. There's more. Put it up, fullback. A Venezuelan delivery driver was disappeared after making a wrong turn. The Trump administration claims they know where he is. In January, a delivery worker in Michigan had picked up an order from McDonald's and was on his way to his destination when he made a wrong turn on a bridge into Canada. It actually happens to a few people a year. When Ricardo Prada Vasquez tried to re-enter the country from the Ambassador Bridge, the 32-year-old Venezuelan immigrant was detained by immigration. March 15th, the same day, dozens of alleged gang members were summarily removed from the country and sent to a brutal prison in Salvador. Prada told a friend in Chicago he was being detained in Texas, expecting he would get on the plane to Venezuela. But he was not on a leaked list of 238 names. These names were immigrants sent to El Salvador. He wasn't identified in the photos of men filmed inside of the jail getting their heads shaved in shackles. Attorneys and family members have no idea where he is. Then on April 22nd, only after his story was reported in the New York Times, Donald Trump's administration said he was actually deported. Deported is the word they used, to El Salvador. The case is raising alarms from immigration attorneys and advocates who fear he is not the only one to seemingly disappear, or that more people have been removed from the country than previously reported. This is something that I said 2 weeks ago on this show. I said, we are reporting on the ones we know about, but there are those, I promise you, we do not. And the evidence is mounting that our government is involved in a national, international, systemic, intentional, and corrupt kidnapping scheme. While the Fox News host and those who subscribe to the Trump ideology celebrate this madness, understand what you're doing. I did not hear any of you advocate for this brand of corruption. during any of Trump's presidential campaigns. If this was such a winner, if this was such a need, why is it that none of you said you want it until Trump started doing it? All right, last my thoughts here.
Yeah, this whole saga is ridiculous. And this story has become so convoluted. And the reason why it's become so convoluted is because Republicans, both the Trump administration and right-wing media, they just refuse to admit that they screwed up, which is a very natural and normal thing to happen. Politically, they believe that they can't afford to admit that they screwed up, but also we don't really know the details of whatever deal Trump has made with Bukele. So since we don't know those details and they're not going to give them to us, they have turned to they're just doing all this posturing in the media instead. They have to dilute the story. They have to start a national debate, not just around whether or not this specific deportation should have happened, but over whether or not Abrego Garcia was a good person, and more significantly, over whether or not due process is something that we need to be protecting in this country. And it's so disappointing that people who still support this move and this administration are allowing their very manufactured fear of this man and of immigrants and of anyone who is different from them to impede their support of the Constitution. And Republicans know that, right? The people who are manufacturing all these fears know that. They know that scared people are irrational people. They are not thinking people. People will justify all kinds of horrific things if they think their own safety is at risk. And that sentiment is hard to argue against. But what we can argue against is whether or not these fears are founded or grounded in any kind of reality. And it's really interesting how people who consume left-wing media are simply not as fearful of immigrants or terrorism or gang violence as people who consume right-wing media are. I think that's very telling. And I think it says that a lot of us are really not grounded in reality.
Yeah, really not grounded in reality. We'll bring updates as they develop. Obviously, there are more updates to bring. Okay, well, a black flight attendant gets attacked, defends himself, and American Airlines decided to fire him according to the allegation. Put him up for a mask. This is an interesting story. And I have the background. Tilman Robinson, an American Airlines flight attendant, says he lost his job after a combative passenger on a New Year's Eve 2023 flight from Charlotte to Las Vegas attacked him, setting off a scuffle that ended with the crew member turning physical and then being fired. Robinson, who is, by the way, a 25-year veteran flight attendant based out of Charlotte, says he was assaulted mid-flight, then was suspended twice in the aftermath and ultimately terminated. However, the passenger, who was later convicted and completed an anger management class, walked away with a clean record. Despite the unprovoked attack, the airline said Robinson did not handle the situation appropriately and began the process of dismissing him from his job. So let's get into the details. The incident began shortly after takeoff on an Airbus A321, where Robinson was one of 4 flight attendants. He said he first noticed the man during the boarding as he tried to reach the lavatory against the flow of passengers. Hours later, the same passenger drank a small bottle of rum straight. That's a red flag. And shoved the empty container toward a fellow flight attendant. After landing, Robinson said the man confronted him near row 11, cursing and jabbing a finger in his face, which Robinson swatted the hand away. The man then proceeded to physically push him, and a shoving match turned physical. Robinson says he tried to de-escalate, but was backed into a corner with the jump seat on one side and the passenger seats on the other. Quote, My only recourse was to protect myself in a defensive posture, he said. Fellow passengers reportedly urged the man to stop and exit the aircraft. Robinson said the man approached him again at the front of the plane, resumed the verbal assault, and then punched him, started swinging, okay? The fight spilled onto the jet bridge. Other passengers had to intervene. Police arrested the passenger at baggage claim. He went to baggage claim like he had not just laid hands on a flight attendant. Robinson filed a police report, and he also directly pressed charges. He did everything he was supposed to do. The next day, Robinson was suspended. The next day. I mean, can we just understand? They were able to investigate and conclude in less than 24 hours. I mean, this has to be a record for an airline company that's still investigating claims that passengers have made of racism against them. Those are still under investigation. They cannot get all the details. But for this thing that happened, they have every detail required in order to make a conclusive decision about Mr. Tillman. All right. So the next day, Tillman Robinson was suspended over the next 9 months. He was reinstated, then suspended twice more before being terminated. He also filed an Aviation Safety Action Program report, which was accepted by a joint committee of the airline union and FAA. He's had 6 hearings, including 2 since his termination. The last was March 2025. The man is a 25-year veteran in that industry. He takes his job seriously. I'm sure he is remarkable at his profession. Robinson believes that his case was mishandled and that factors such as his size, he's a 6'2", 250-pound man, might have worked against him. He also points to workplace friction, which led with the lead flight attendant on the plane, and says she provided a version of events that hurt his case. He also suspects broader politics are involved. Robinson believes the airline may be making an example of him after the union sent a letter to the FAA criticizing the company's handling of flight attendant assault cases. Quote, "My union feels like the company is using me as a sacrificial lamb," he said. Neither American Airlines nor the union offered many details about the case that, while sparked by the passenger's aggression, ultimately turned physical on both sides, leaving Robinson out of a job. American said in a statement, quote, "After conducting a thorough internal investigation, it was determined the former team member acted in a manner inconsistent with our expectations and defined policies prior to the altercation and throughout." End quote. Prior to the altercation and throughout. Let me tell you why that line is so ironic to me. There is no way possible that I would ever believe that the man who's the 25-year veteran is the one who is inappropriate prior to the altercation and throughout the altercation. I would believe that the man who got arrested after passengers witnessed his aggression and physical assaults and also continued to consume alcohol. I would believe that that man was inappropriate prior and during. That last statement lets me know you're throwing him under the bus. Because in a defense scenario, you have just concluded that everything he did was not defensible, and so he's fired. Everything, prior and during. Okay? Interesting. So now at 51 years of age, he's been working as a part-time security guard at a youth football game or youth football games while waiting for instructions from the union, the Association of Professional Flight Attendants, on how to proceed. We're going to help this brother, all right? So I want to remind everyone that we've had some of these dynamics before. We've even interviewed people who have faced discrimination at these airlines. But meanwhile, while this is being worked out through his representation, his finances have taken a sharp downturn. Mr. Robinson made about $80,000 in an industry he's worked in for 25 years. Okay, he was at $80,000 annually with the airline. He is now relying on side work and donations. There's a GoFundMe campaign organized by his coworkers, by the people that love, respect, honor his leadership. They have known him a long time. They know that he is not the person the narrative from the company suggests. So let's put it back up. I want to make sure everybody can get this. They've raised over $20,000 to help cover expenses and support his elderly parents. Okay, he's a dutiful son, both of whom have serious health conditions. He's taking care of them. All right, so support Kilmar Robinson, flight attendant in need. You can go to support Kilmar Robinson, flight attendant in need. Support Kilmar Robinson, a flight attendant in need. Do the very best you can. American Airlines has been in the headlines for the past 2 years over its poor treatment of their Black customers. These are some that we've highlighted. Remember them? One of them is a judge who came on the program. Very beautiful woman. Amazing spirit, amazing heart. Was treated completely inappropriately. All right. Well, part of our job, part of your job is to make sure this never becomes normal. When does it become normal? When we stop talking about it and it continues to happen. When we stop bringing light to the darkness of what it represents. Remember, Mr. Tillman is not just one person. He represents a family. He's taking care of 2 parents who have worked their whole lives as well and are in serious health decline. And I'm sure it permeates beyond that. All right, Yasmin, thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's so funny to me how corporations still expect loyalty from their workers because that loyalty is not reciprocated. Corporations are not protecting their workers, nor are they even defending them against these malicious actors. And it says so much about our corporate culture in this country specifically. And corporate culture dictates so much of life in this country because we are a capitalist nation. Capitalism is embedded in our individual and collective values. This is the country that declared that corporations are people, but then gave those corporations more protections than people actually get. For a long time, the customer was always right. That was what we would always hear. Businesses couldn't afford to alienate customers because that's money that they're leaving on the table. But now people are tired of seeing these corporations alienate and also devalue and disrespect their workers. We live in a time now when job security simply does not exist for most people. Anyone is just a layoff away from being destitute, especially even in industries that have been consistently pretty consistent for people, right? Pretty reliable for people to work in, and they would work there for decades. That's not the case anymore. And, that's so destabilizing because now, if you lose your job, most people wouldn't be able to pay their rent or their mortgage anymore, or they wouldn't be able to support their families. These corporations don't care about any of that. And our nation doesn't have laws that protect workers from predatory corporate behavior like what we discussed in this story. In other countries, companies are not allowed to just lay off workers unexpectedly. And when layoffs do happen, the company has to demonstrate to the government that layoffs were the absolute last resort. In other countries, companies have to help those laid off workers secure new work. So now with stories like this one constantly coming out, companies like American Airlines are likely to face much more backlash than they otherwise would have had they just supported their employee in the first place, especially in a case where it's so obvious that the customer was not right in this case. And for American Airlines, it serves them right that they would get the backlash.
Yeah, and we will bring you updates as this story develops, still waiting on word from his union. All right. We got more on the other side. Indisputable, stick and stay.
Our audience has given us everything, so we couldn't be more connected. When we first started, people would start giving us directions and say, okay, the mics are too large, move them, turn them into lav mics. I mean, they were incredible. And then one guy walked in and gave us a really expensive switcher and said, you guys need this, and walked out. Okay, it's amazing. They helped us build a studio. They did a $2 million funding campaign for us. And so they really are us. We do this show together to the point where some of our hosts are even former listeners. So when we say that the audience is part of TYT, we really mean it.
I think what the audience also appreciates is especially if they're members, they really get an inside look into who we are, our personal lives, what drives and motivates us. It goes beyond just storytelling. I think that what we do is allow our viewers and our listeners into our daily lives, and we give them kind of like this inside look into everything that we're passionate about and why it is that we're doing what we're doing, right? Like the motivation behind what we're doing, I think is important for our audience to know, and we're not shy about sharing that with them. And it's different from what people typically see in legacy media outlets where everything is kind of dry and robotic and there's really no personality or authenticity that comes along with it. Oftentimes when we're doing the show, I don't really think of it as me telling them stories. I think of it as us having a mutual respect and conversation with one another. And as I said earlier, I mean, not only do I feel that through the work I do, I'm informing our audience, but they inform me oftentimes as well. You know, they'll pitch stories to us. They'll tell us, you know, a certain perspective or angle to a story that we might have missed. And I love it.
You're about to watch some behind the scenes footage of the Young Turks. Ooh. Now these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member, go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind the scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show like. tyt.com/join and enjoy this.
You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey, hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitsing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny Pie. I said it was live stream, but I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members. Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat.
Animals are innocent.
Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing.
I'm so happy to be here.
This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Jank. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
Such a big fan. Oh, thank you. You are the one person in my life I would love to meet.
What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes with Hassan Piker, AKA Woke Bay.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting, the control room is right there. So I can see Bart.
This is the Pittsburgh office, by the way. Referred to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool, rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT? Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing, because there's always got to be a super last thing. Oh, that was disastrous. This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes.
All right, welcome back. Always good to be with you. We got a lot of comments. I'm gonna read as many as I can. Lynn says, Donald isn't a representative, he's a misrepresentative. Yes, that name fits. Susan Jean, welcome to Disputable. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't have a clever handle. Says, Laura Ingraham is a disgrace. She adopted foreign children. What will she say or do when ICE comes for them? And what will she say or do when they start recognizing the disconnect between her advocacy and her mothering? All right, doxing Garcia's wife. G says, just like publish Letitia James' address. That's correct. It's their way. It's their way. And Busy B, hello everyone. Getting ready for work, but I'll be listening. Thank you so much for tuning in. Also, Night Eater. Trump still didn't give him a cabinet position. That's right. That's why he's running for governor. That was his backup plan. My man on his backup plan already. Brother, you 2 months in. Give it a chance. All right. And ironically, he's just as unqualified as everybody else. All right. Nadia says Trump still to give him a cabinet position. Does he not realize there's not a single black person in the administration? At the end, Nadia says, when is he going to be in the bullpen? The man cannot handle a town hall in Florida. The last thing he wants to do is come to the bullpen. All right. Obviously, I'm okay with it. But all right, got something for you. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free. Back off. I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Because here's this neighbor. We paid $2,250 to live in this house. And the kids are in the backyard. We're going to have an Easter egg hunt. It's on Easter. And every single holiday, this lady complains, sends people over to complain, because apparently we're not allowed to enjoy our own backyard. The kids' ages are 9, 10, and 8 years old.
This is Shirley.
And they are not allowed to have fun or an Easter egg hunt in their own backyard.
With the screaming kids. I just want to say that when you live in an area like our homes with very small lots, you have to be considerate of neighbors.
We are being considerate.
You're not being.
They're not in the backyard hardly ever.
You're not being considerate.
But on holidays they are.
You're not being considerate when you're letting your kids scream at the top of their lungs, and the neighbors cannot sit outside and enjoy the day. What I'm saying is, when you have to be respectful of neighbors. I am Shirley Ontiveros. I'm the treasurer on the board of the HOA community here.
HOAs are absolutely ridiculous.
I am the treasurer, third rank of the HOA. That means you are a resident like the other person. Okay, put it up full mass. Interesting story here. Anytime a person has to tell you they are a member of the HOA, right, in your community, it is usually to enforce some kind of personal thing. Despite this Karen's characterization of how loud the tenant's kids were playing, the mother would post a video of her kids during their Easter egg hunt. They were actually fairly quiet. They were not screaming at the top of their lungs. Mischaracterization, HOA, Karen, hand in hand. That's my opinion of the whole matter. And while the Karen in question here says they cannot enjoy their, time at their home outside, it sounds like to me you don't want the kids to enjoy theirs. And it's a once a year thing. It's not like kids do Easter egg hunts every Sunday. I was proud to participate in one myself. I didn't put the bunny rabbit suit on. Somebody else had to do that. But I had a good time with the kids on Sunday. Big ups. All right. Yasmin. Damn them kids. This is about her having a good time outside.
Yeah, I mean, like, do you know what happened to me over the weekend, Doc? Like, my neighbor had a whole mariachi band on his front lawn. The houses in this neighborhood are too close for any of that. It was so obnoxious, but it was like 7 p.m. on a Saturday. So what are you going to do? My husband and I, we just left the house and went out to dinner. But the idea of getting mad at kids for playing outside, I do take a lot of issue with that. Things like this make me laugh because if this woman wants that level of peace and quiet, first of all, she doesn't have enough money for that. Right? You need more money for that level of privacy. Buy more land. You need bigger land for that kind of privacy. Also, kids don't play outside anymore. So when they are playing outside, let them play, right? We need to be encouraging this behavior because at least they aren't sitting inside on their iPads being antisocial. And finally, this is why nobody likes the HOA. In concept, maybe HOAs have some merit, but in practice, HOAs are the worst. And of course, this woman was on her HOA.
Yeah. That's right. We'll bring you updates if there's one to bring. Okay. Well, we got a hell of a story. Variety and NYT slammed over unfair headlines about Sinners, the movie, the film. Okay. Here it is.
Incredibly easy to point out a pattern that we often see, a very quiet double standard. The New York Times reported that Sinners opened to a $46 million opening weekend in the United States. Now, the movie was made for around $90 to $100 million. The headline that the New York Times ran with, however, was, Sinners is a box office success, and then in brackets it put, with a big asterisk. But very quickly, it frames the success as provisional, as something that still needs to be proven, right? Like, it needs to continue to be profitable. It needs to justify itself. But here's where it gets interesting, because back in 2019, before the pandemic, before the death of cinema that we've heard over the last 5-6 years over and over again, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood opened to $40 million over its weekend. Now, same ballpark budget, around $90 to $100 million, but it made $6 million less. And the New York Times headline, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a box office hit for Tarantino. No asterisk, no caveats, no quiet suggestion that maybe, just maybe, it hasn't really earned the hit label yet.
TikToker Jamal Burkmar breaks it down, and he did a remarkable job showing the hypocrisy here. Put it up, full mass. I wonder why there's this contrast in opinion from the publications. Variety also was found using a shady headline for Sinners. Sinners has amassed $61 million in its global debut. It's a great result for an original R-rated horror film. Yet the Warner Brothers release has a $90 million price tag before global marketing expenses. So profitability remains a ways away. All right, Variety. Acting director Ben Stiller will call them out on this X post. Quote, in what universe does a $60 million opening for an original studio movie warrant this headline? It's insane, but yeah, you're right. Ben Stiller is correct. Actor Patrick Schwarzenegger got involved, was a guest. What? Of the headline posting. Quote, it's opening weekend. After significant blowback, Variety said, we just go create a new article. Make y'all forget about the first one. Entitled, 5 Reasons Why Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan's Sinners ruled the box office. Ruled it. Nailed it. Who in the hell is in charge over there? Put them up. This is wild. How? All right. Everybody's coming to the defense, which is great. Even people that don't like each other are defending this and saying, however, within the article, they basically repeated the same post writing this. But Sinners will need to continue a strong run in multiplexes to turn a profit. That's because the studio spent $90 million to produce the film and roughly $50 million to $60 million on global marketing expenses, since theater owners keep half of ticket sales. Sinners needs to gross around $200 million, $225 million globally in order to break even theatrically, according to knowledgeable sources. I have never seen them turn into economists. I mean, this individual did future calculations, compounded interest, development interest, and also commission rate per ticket sale to vendor owners throughout the nation. Never have I seen that before, or any critique of a movie opening weekend. Now, Coogler's deal reportedly gives the director first dollar gross, which means he gets a cut of revenues before the film is profitable. Although Sinners is starting slow internationally, earning $15.4 million last weekend from 71 markets, box office watchers believe the film's glowing reviews will provide the momentum needed to stick around on the big screen. Typically, that's what it takes, all right? So here's more info on the deal.
It's been reported quite a bit that he negotiated after he wrote the script. He sent it to the studios and he said, highest bidder. And in the negotiation, he was able to leverage that after 25 years, the copyright of the film returns to his ownership, which is incredibly unusual. We know that this is something Quentin Tarantino did for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Very few filmmakers in the history of studio filmmaking have been able to get this. He's been a little bit circumspect in the press as to why he wanted that. I'll just make a conclusive leap that a movie about blues, which is an art form that was adopted, transformed, and stolen in America and turned into white profit, making a movie that is essentially about the origins of that and the way that that is like, there is a temptation and there is like a desire to transgress, but that transgression can be a beautiful art. And then owning that after making that movie, I'm sure is very metaphorically and financially rewarding for him.
As with many issues on the big screen, you have adjacent issues connected to the mainstream or the headline issue. So in addition to that controversy, TikToker, Storytime guy would go viral for saying that Sinner lacked Latino representation and called it a rip-off of From Dusk to Dawn. Here's the video in question.
I love the movie Sinners, but it's literally the plot of From Dusk Till Dawn. No one's talking about this. It's insane. There is one movie that Sinners owes everything to, and it's not Puss in Boots. It's goddamn From Dusk Till Dawn. And like, I'm not saying Nosferatu, Dracula, Sinners, From Dusk Till Dawn, but I will say that Ryan Coogler needs to firmly address that he was inspired by a Latin American vampire movie because we are owed our flowers. Also, Ryan, I saw that tamale story you put in the movie. Where's the Latino extras? Come on, Ryan, you're so good at putting Latinos in your movie. What the happened here? You don't put Latinos in the movie and you steal from the biggest Latino vampire movie? Come on, man, that's a bad look.
So this caused some outrage online, which prompted these responses to him. Here it is.
So Ryan Coogler has always been very vocal about what movies have inspired his new movie Sinners. In a press interview that he did with me way back in January to launch a trailer, I asked him straight up about the From Dusk Till Dawn similarities and whether or not he used that as references. And Ryan Coogler does confirm that yes, it was an influence on the movie, saying that Robert Rodriguez is a big influence. On the nose, it'd be very easy to make this From Dusk Till Dawn, but it's actually quite close to The Faculty. He also brings up Salem's Lot, John Carpenter movies, Coen Brother movies, as well as a Twilight Zone episode called The Last Rites of Jeff Myrtlebank as his biggest influence. And yes, he did say that Death from Puss in Boots is a massive inspiration for the vampires in his movie, which he said on my podcast, by the way. That just shows that Ryan Coogler is a man who will pull, get inspired by, and then show love to the things that inspire him. I also posted a video yesterday of Ryan talking about his inspirations for the film, which include From Dusk Till Dawn and how and why they're similar and how this movie differentiates itself from that, calling it more closely to Salem's Lot.
Yo, the funniest thing about that clip is he calls From Dusk Till Dawn a Latino vampire movie. From Dusk Till Dawn is a movie about white people fighting an army of Aztec vampires. It is classic anti-indigenous stereotypes. How can Latino representation be your takeaway from this? When you're going through the cast, you gotta go through 5 different actors before reaching Salma Hayek, the first Latina on this grid.
How was Dusk Till Dawn a Latin American movie? Did you actually watch the movie? For those of you who haven't seen it, Dusk Till Dawn is about a white guy and his brother, who's also a white guy, Quentin Tarantino, who actually wrote the movie,
who are two outlaws who had to escape to Mexico, who this one was raping and pillaging on his way to Mexico. And in order to get to Mexico in the first place, they had to kidnap people in order to get there. And then eventually they get run over by vampires. I'm actually embarrassed for him because I know why he thinks Dusk Till Dawn is a Latin American movie. Because the movie took place in Mexico and Selma Hayek's in it, he's like, oh, it's Latin American movie. You know, we have representation. But he doesn't realize you're getting scraps and thinking it's a feast. That's why he's disappointed there were no extras of Latin American people in Sinners, because he wants his scraps. He doesn't understand, no, you should be doing bigger and better than that. You should be making your own stuff. So begging and being upset that you weren't getting scraps from somebody else, that's embarrassing.
One thing I would love for us to do is start holding the right entities accountable for the problem. I've been watching a lot of videos and reading articles where people of color are pointing the fingers and accusing other people of color of not getting representation right when it comes to people of color. Right now, I'm going to speak to the group that I belong to, Latinos, Latina, Latinx people. We got a lot of nerve questioning Black people, Indian people, Asian people, Arab people for not getting representation right when it comes to us, when we don't even get representation right when it comes to us. How about we flip the table over and hold the machine accountable for why it does it to all of us and stop fighting for crumbs and all go get the lobster? And maybe, just maybe, if we start treating our own people well, other people will follow suit.
Obviously, that's our dear sister, Ida Rodriguez, who has been a guest on this show, a co-host, commentator at the network, remarkable human being. Had a great time with her and the crew when we went to the MMCA Awards, Multicultural Media. And she's always that person. The person that you see right there is who she is all the time. She's a voice of reason on both sides, on all sides, and quite witty. All right. I appreciate all of the commentators who said something. Sometimes that requires you being criticized later. Believe me, I know. But thank you for your opinions. All right. Yeah, some thoughts here.
Oh, okay. So that's an interesting take regarding Latino representation in Sinners. I haven't seen Sinners, probably won't because I get very scared and I can't do horror. But personally, I don't think anyone needs to be represented in everything, right? Like I didn't need or really even want to see Indian people in Bridgerton. I don't watch Bridgerton either because I didn't like the show. But in the second season, they had Indian people. But it's a story that was set in Regency era England. And that context matters, right? I get that we're trying to give more opportunities to actors and more visibility to different groups. But I think a better course is to just write stories where these groups of people make sense, or to write stories where things like race don't matter and they aren't as diegetic. But here we have a movie that has performed admirably in its opening weekend, but it's being held to a standard that is perhaps higher than other movies would be held to, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But is it because the movie featured a Black director and a primarily Black cast? Perhaps. We can't prove that one way or the other, but it certainly feels that way. And this movie in particular, like I said, it is a horror film. And I feel like this is doing very well for a horror film because typically, they're a little bit slower on the uptake, especially with the public, because there's people like me who cannot watch scary movies. I get very scared, but it does look like it's an interesting film. It looks well made. And we all know that Michael B. Jordan has no issues carrying a film. But I do wonder about what that first creator was referring to about the death of cinema. This is something I think about a lot. This is an original film, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, and it's performing well at the box office, right? For the love of good cinema, I'm so tired of seeing everything from my 90s childhood rehashed and remade and rebooted. I'm sorry to say this to all the Zoomers and to Gen Alpha, but most of what you guys get in your media is just a worse version of what we got to experience the first time around, right? You can't tell me that Jumanji with Kevin Hart and The Rock is somehow better than the original version with Robin Williams, because it just isn't. I want to see more original films, but movie studios are trying to convince us that all original films do not do well at the box office and that remade movies are more reliable box office pulls. That's what they say, but they're crap, but they are profitable, right? So let's make original movies and creativity profitable again. So everybody go see this movie, even if it's just out of spite.
There you go. Well said. And ironically, all of their criticism from Variety and the New York Times has created extra earned media that they did not have to
Good.
pay for. More people are aware of the movie being out. Okay, we got more on the other side. Indisputable stick and stay.
Every day, the Young Turks delivers 2 hours of solid, fact-based, timely news and progressive commentary on all the day's most important stories. We keep our viewers informed while also providing perspective and insight on the news we cover, so you understand not only what's happening, but also what's happening behind the scenes, the stories behind the stories.
We play musical chairs and put these children in one awful detention facility to the next. That's what's happening at the border.
The things that got him banned, he's still spreading. So presumably, I think it's reasonable to say that if you allow him back on the website, he's going to do it again.
Any legal voter that we deem not willing to vote for my side shouldn't vote because it'll replace me that's supposed to vote for my side. That's not how voting works. That's not how democracy works.
And while many people following today's political news can get discouraged about the direction of the nation and the world, that's not us. At TYT, we're genuinely optimistic about the future, and with good reason. Today, wide majorities of Americans agree with our progressive stances on issues ranging from healthcare and education to climate, immigration, and wages. The rising generation of young people are also overwhelmingly progressive in their political beliefs and policy objectives, and they're increasingly flexing their muscle as voters and activists to demand change from our elected officials. The traditional mainstream media is mostly AWOL. They, along with the government and many other cherished institutions, have been captured by corporate interests. Audiences sense that they're not getting the whole story or even the truth from once trusted outlets, whether broadcast and cable TV news networks or national newspapers and magazines. The antidote is the Young Turks. Unlike mainstream corporate outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to Big Pharma, and we don't carry water for the Republican or Democratic parties. So watch us Monday to Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, and join the thousands of progressives around the globe who tune in every day for TYT's unmatched, award-winning content and see what it's like to experience a news organization that only answers to you.
Indisputable, exclusive, disputable, exclusive. We brought you this first. No other news agency has this video. No other news agency has this story.
Every week on Indisputable, we do original, exclusive, investigative reporting you'll find nowhere else.
Our reports have been viewed by millions. Hosted by Sean King, Ben Crump, Senator John Ossoff.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
We catching these cases on camera. Just imagine the things that we don't see.
Our groundbreaking investigations and exclusive interviews bring you the real voices no one else wants you to hear. We tell the stories.
Imagine a prison that is so racist, the corrections officers contact me. That is a life or death situation being created. A black woman who was driving for Uber was allegedly assaulted by a white male passenger. After we got involved, roughly 24 hours later, the police all of a sudden opened up an investigation. What was going through your mind when bullets were simply flying inside of your vehicle?
Honestly, I thought I was going to die.
Did these officers ever say that you fit the description of somebody they were looking for? Did they say that?
Never.
Okay, that means they lied.
And we want you to be part of our truth-telling movement. Send pictures and video of stories no one else is telling and a 1 or 2 paragraph summary of the story to Indisputable's exclusive tip line at indvideos@tyt.com.
If you have more information about what's happening at this particular facility, please let me know.
Together, we're challenging the system, and together, we're making a difference.
I have the entire background to this story, and it is going to make your blood boil.
Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, unveiling the truth, empowering the people. Weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific.
All right, welcome back. Always good to be with you. We got a lot of comments. I will read as many as I can. Yep, Nightmare 316. Sinners is an awesome movie. Go see it. Enough said. The IT Dragon. Hell yeah, Ida. That's right. About Byron Donalds. Paul Sadie Third Leg says, now that's a powerful Karen. Ryu Raw, the concept of Doge is fine. The execution and reality of Doge is a massive failure and extreme exercise in corruption. Yes. Storma, American Airlines. Sounds like a wrongful termination. He should sue both the airline and the customer. I'm sure that's in conversation and probably forthcoming after his union makes a decision. All right. RFK Jr. launches disease registry to track Americans with autism. All right. It is.
And these are a broad category, the ones that Marty mentioned, like ADHD, the neurological disorders, ADD, ADHD, speech delay, language delay, tics, Tourette syndrome, narcolepsy, ASD, and autism. All of these are injuries that I never heard of when I was a kid. They were not part of the nomenclature. They weren't part of the dialogue. There was zero spent in this country treating chronic disease when my uncle was president. Today it's about $1.8 trillion annually. It's bankrupting our nation. 74% of American kids cannot qualify for military service. Oh, how are we going to maintain our global leadership with such a sick population?
Our RFK Jr.'s autism registry idea is raising significant red flags all over the place. All right. Put them up, full mass. This is your Health and Human Services Secretary. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been facing backlash over his remarks and statements regarding the abilities of autistic people. He's launching a disease registry that will track Americans with autism. This has raised plenty of data concerns in addition to questions about how the department might use the data to advance RFK Jr.'s health agenda. Advocates for people with autism have decried Kennedy's recent comments with that autism is a, quote, preventable disease that, quote, destroys families. And Kennedy has hired a discredited vaccine researcher to investigate debunk claims that autism and vaccines are linked. So the idea that the health secretary wants to compile a database, all right? Please understand, they know his politics, and that's one thing. The database is something else, but connected to the one thing. So he wants to develop a database of Americans who have a condition he seems intent on spreading falsehoods about is more than a little suspect. So understand their point of view. The advocacy community, these beautiful, big-hearted individuals who advocate for this community in an authentic and loving way, are saying, wait, let's think about this. This guy believes in some science that has been deemed to be quackery by a lot of people. Now he wants a registry, a tracking apparatus directly to this one group. They're suspicious of this. Of course, CBS News reports, quote, between 10 and 20 outside groups of researchers will be given grant funding and access to the records to produce Kennedy's autism studies. The National Institutes of Health, NIH, is amassing private medical records from a number of federal and commercial databases to give to Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s New effort to study autism, the NIH's top official said Monday. Now, I'm a data guy. I'm a researcher, okay? I teach doctoral students. We have to go over qualitative, quantitative analysis, statistical development. What theory will you utilize? Grounded theory, a quantitative or qualitative theory based on the numbers. That's fine. The research is not the issue. I encourage ongoing research. But research to be proper cannot come with a built-in bias. Any first-year researcher, first-day researcher will tell you that. You have to leave your bias at the door in order to engage in fruitful research for everyone. They don't believe he leaves his bias at the door, okay? Nor the people he selects, okay? So the new data will allow external researchers picked or Kennedy's autism studies to study, quote, comprehensive patient data with broad coverage of the U.S. population for the first time. NIH director said medication records for pharmacy chains, lab testing, and genomics data from patients treated by the Department of Veterans Affairs and Indian Health Services claim from private insurance and data. From patients treated by the Department of Veterans Affairs and Indian Health Services, claims from private insurance and data from smartwatches and fitness trackers will be all linked together. Now y'all scared, okay? So the same feeling that you just got when you learned smartwatches, fitness trackers, all combined. All right. Starting to get the picture? All right, there's more. The NIH is also in talks with the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services to broaden agreements governing access to their data also. It's you, it's me, it's us. While the selected researchers will be able to access and study the private medical data, they will not be able to download it. Oh, that makes such a big difference. They can't hit the download button. I feel perfectly safe now. He promised state-of-the-art protections to protect. You know, I would feel safer if you stopped using words that clearly indicate you're lying. State-of-the-art protections. Elon? Okay. They are planning to, as they said, quote, rapid timeline. Research and rapid don't go together in the world of scientific, medical, and biological discovery. They are planning a rapid timeline to launch the autism research using this data, he said, but did not give specifics on when it would start or how long the studies would take. Kennedy last week appeared to walk back his early prediction that they will have all the answers to autism causes by September. You can't do that. This is metadata. This is analytical metadata. That's what they're utilizing. This is a research approach that is absolutely fine. It probably should be done on some level. Now, I believe they're going obviously into the extreme and diving into significant privacy issues that violate us. But there's a way to do it based on profile metadata where individuals are not accessed. You don't need it. You just need the data. You need to see correlation. If you can see correlation is not causation. I think that's what they're looking for. If you can see the 9 out of 10 individuals who had this thing done also developed this other thing, okay? That's correlation. You have established correlation in research literature. Now you have to take correlation, do another study properly done to establish causation of the correlation. That's the way you do it. Now, I'm not sure he knows that's how it's supposed to be done because none of this can be done quickly if you want to do it accurately. All right? Okay. All right, this is thoughts here.
Sorry, I think I was muted. Yeah, a lot of thoughts here. I think there's a reason why I don't. There's a lot of reasons actually why I don't respect RFK Jr. But one of them is that he speaks about things that he knows nothing about. I don't know about what causes autism, but I also don't pretend to know. He does pretend to know, and somehow he has amassed a huge following of people who also don't know what they're talking about. And I know they don't know what they're talking about because they don't have any information that the rest of us don't have. And something not being part of the nomenclature, the dialogue from when he was a kid doesn't mean that that thing didn't exist back then. It just means that people weren't talking about it. And it is possible that these issues have exacerbated over time, and that certain things have become more prevalent and common over time, but we don't know that for certain. And as I said, scientists and researchers don't actually know what causes autism. They have several suspected factors that they think contribute to autism, but there's no cause the way that people like RFK Jr. seems to think that there is. It's not just the vaccines, if it is the vaccines at all. And I'm not against studying this stuff more. I don't think I've ever been against studying something, but I am against people like RFK Jr. sponsoring a study, though, for the same reasons that you laid out, Doc, because this is not an unbiased crusade that he's on. Also, the fact that they want to roll out this rapid research program, again, proves my point that they don't know what they're talking about and they don't know what they're doing. He doesn't want to just eradicate autism or prevent autism. He wants to be proven right. Additionally, the data collection issue is very concerning. They don't want to just access your medical records. They want your smartwatch data. And part of that is on the user, right? If you are tracking anything using any kind of device, any kind of smart device, you have to understand that that information, no matter how personal or protected it's supposed to be, it is liable to being swiped by someone like RFK Jr. And it's not that I don't think that there's value in tracking certain things either. It's like what I was talking about earlier. We don't have the data to determine whether or not autism is more prevalent now than it was. But if we had been tracking these things prior, then we would have better data to judge that based off of. But just like I don't trust Doge to make our government more efficient, despite its name and stated purpose, I also don't trust RFK Jr. or this administration to develop a good research program or to properly utilize and protect the personal private data that they are so desperately coveting right now.
Very well said. And that's the sentiment of many in the advocacy community for those with living, surviving, and thriving with autism. They're some of the most beautiful people, especially I go to school, I go to elementaries a lot and I speak. There's this brilliance and this heart and this level of authenticity that is significantly encouraging to me. And I'm sure a lot of people feel the way I do. All right. Well, Tesla has admitted it. Elon Musk is the reason they're failing. Okay. So put it up full mass. It is him. He is the reason. 71% drop in profits. Tesla, the company, admits it's because of Musk and his politics, at least partially. The rest is he's a bad manager. I added that part. All right, Tesla admits Musk politics are having a meaningful impact on sales after a 71% drop. Wow. The New York Times reported Tuesday that Tesla's first quarter revenue was just $409 million. That sounds like a lot of money to you, and now that's a tremendous amount of money. But when you're accustomed to making $1.4 billion, I mean, 71% decrease. The company made that kind of decrease in the first 3 months of 2024, and the company told investors on the call that the significant decrease in sales is partially due to, quote, changing political sentiment that, quote, could have a meaningful impact on demand for our products in the near term, an apparent reference to Musk. So here's the public role in Trump's administration. It has resulted in widespread protests. We know that. We've reported on these widespread protests. Some people are doing this to their own cars, by the way, okay? This has happened across the country. This is the Tesla takedown movement. Is also caught on globally with protesters in Europe and Australia, also demonstrating outside of Tesla's dealerships. A charging station in Massachusetts also targeted. The electric vehicle company is also taking a beating as a result of Chinese competitors like BYD, which saw sales jump by roughly 60% in the first 3 months of 2025. Additionally, established automakers like General Motors, Ford, and BMW, along with newer companies like Rivian and Polestar, have made a dent in Tesla's sales by rolling out competing vehicles that could be seen as more appealing to liberal and centrist buyers. MAGA. Musk has signaled he intends to leave the Trump administration soon. Personal point of privilege. I made a friendly bet with a dear friend. I said Musk will be out in May. I am so waiting to gloat because he loves him some Donald Trump. And believe Elon Musk was the smartest pick he ever had. But even if Musk leaves at that time, walks away from his role with the Trump administration, Tesla investors may still be eager to oust him as the company's CEO. Last month, a longtime Tesla investor called for Musk to resign as CEO, be dismissed by the company's board. Quote, the company's reputation has been destroyed by Elon Musk, investor Ross Gerber told Sky News in March. Quote, sales are plummeting, so yeah, it's a crisis. You literally can't sell the best product in the marketplace because the CEO is so divisive. Ross, listen, man, you got to stick to your guns on this one, okay? All right? There are a lot of people in that investment pool, they think exactly like you. Think about it. What's the reason? It's Elon. It's nothing else, okay? People who like Tesla, they like Tesla. You had a lot of individuals who were left-leaning, love Tesla, no longer do. Those family members, they won't buy Tesla. All right. Yasmin, this is one of those unforced errors. We would call it self-check on Glenwood. Nobody made Elon do any of this. He volunteered to tank his company and be a horrible government employee.
Yeah, I mean, this is what happens when a company ties so much of its value and image to one actor. That worked out well for Tesla back when Elon Musk was portrayed and accepted publicly as being like a modern day Iron Man, right? People love Iron Man. They love Tony Stark, even though he is very flawed. But now he's starting to be seen as more of like a Lex Luthor type, or like even a Batman, but not in a flattering Batman kind of way. Like a Batman that is very delusional and deeply damaged, and a billionaire who refuses to pay taxes. And now he just pretends to solve society's problems by fighting the so-called bad guys in spandex and Kevlar and fancy cars, and in this case, rocket ships, right? So that's what we're dealing with. And we're seeing the overall image of Elon Musk and who he is and what he represents to this country. We're seeing all of that kind of collapse in on itself. And a lot of it has to do with his involvement in our government and the way he is overstepping into people's lives. But he still wants to portray this image like, oh, I'm the victim here somehow. I'm the one who my company is being attacked by the woke radical leftists, right? That's not the case, right? People are starting to wake up and see that people like Elon Musk are very much to blame for a lot of the issues that they're complaining about, a lot of the issues that they claim to be fixing as he's going around, playing around in our government, right? It makes sense that he's out, or he's on his way out of the government. He was supposed to be out soon anyway. The backlash has not been great for him personally, especially now that we're getting all these reports that he has been siphoning information, deleting information from government agencies, whether or not he was supposed to be in there. His Doge team members are not only doing these things, but they're covering their tracks so that we can actually see the things that they're doing whenever they're gaining access into all of these systems. Not only that, we're seeing that through Starlink, Elon Musk's company, a lot of this data has been funneled directly over to Russia, right? That is the information that has come out in recent weeks. So it makes sense that all of this is coming back directly to Elon Musk. And since he can just kind of like leave the government, people are saying, you know what, you don't get to do this to so many people. to tank our economy, to fire people from their jobs, to delete our databases and all of our information and all of the work of so many hardworking people, of so many experts, and get away with all of this scot-free. So we're going to get you where it hurts you the most, and that is with your company, that is with your money, and that is why these Tesla boycotts are having a significant impact, not only on Tesla, but on Elon Musk himself.
Yep, that's right. And he doesn't pay child support, according to
also that, yeah.
Mother. Yeah. All right, we'll bring you updates as they come. All right, we have a major update. City of Uvalde reaches a settlement with families of victims. Put it a full mask. This is a hell of a story. I remember when we reported on this and talking about the courage of the parents and the cowardness of some of the cops. So full display, city council, they were outraged by it. City has reached a settlement with the families of school shooting victims. An attorney representing the families of the Robb Elementary School, a mass shooting victims, confirmed to ABC News on Tuesday that a settlement was reached and approved by a unanimous vote at City Council. This is in Texas, a reminder of the horrific events in 2022. 21 people were killed, including 19 children at an elementary school in Texas, Uvalde. The shooter was 18 years of age. Salvador Ramos, a former student of that school. As was previously reported on Indisputable, not a single cop attempted to open either of the classroom doors until much after their arrival when they killed the gunman. 11 officers, including the school district police chief, Pete Arredondo, were inside of the elementary within 3 minutes of the gunman entering. A law enforcement source close to the investigation told CNN. They did not approach the door again for almost an hour. Josh Koska, one of the attorneys who filed the lawsuit against the city, did not specify the exact terms of the settlement. In addition to a monetary settlement that would be paid out by the city's insurance, the families were asking for the police to adopt new fitness standards for the force and to boost officer training. Attorneys announced at a press conference May 2024. At the time of the suit being filed, Koska told ABC News that the plaintiffs also were asking the city to maintain the cemetery where many of the victims are buried and to provide an updated accounting of the donations and spending related to May 24th. The plaintiffs were also asking to designate May 24th as an official day of remembrance in Uvalde and to create a committee for a permanent memorial in town. The attorney confirmed all 21 victims' families were represented in the lawsuit, but did not disclose any others who are listed as plaintiffs. And just one of the moments of that horrific incident, parents, in particular, a mother who was told by the police while this killing is going on and her baby is on the inside, told by the police, no, you have to stay back, treating her like a criminal. She ran in a damn school. She ran in the school while the police stayed out. All right? It takes heart to do what's right, not a gun. Yes, my thoughts here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I want to celebrate this, but we don't really know the details of the settlement. Yeah. And the fact that this has all taken so long to come about is not only disappointing, but it says so much about how we as a nation are just unwilling to take this issue seriously. None of what we do know, like the additional police training, et cetera, is actually going to help prevent incidents like this from happening again in the future, not realistically at least. This is also reactionary. And these were small children who were killed. If we can't protect our babies, then what are we even doing as a nation? This is very sad.
Very sad. And once again, the macrocosm of guns in America and our access to them, not to be discussed by the political right at all. Yasmin, always fascinating to have your analysis. Thanks for joining us again. Tell people how they can follow you and check out your great work.
Yep, you can find me on the Rebel HQ YouTube channel. I do videos there several times a week. And also you can follow me on Instagram at YazK with 5 Z's, YAZZZZZK. Thanks.
Thank you, dear sister. Until next time. All right. Remember, take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.